Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopidana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Mahatma Sabri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Kund Radha Kund Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, all glories to Jesus, all glories to Jesus. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Deva, all glories to Jagat Guru Sri Prabhupada, and all glories to you, Madhavananda Prabhu. Please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So good to have your association here, Prabhuji.
Well, thank you. Such a
Hare
nice
Krishna.
program.
Hare
Could
Krishna.
you do me a favor, or someone there, and allow me to fix the settings so I can share my screen?
Sure, yes, we will do that. Okay, so you should have that right by now.
Okay.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I believe this is your first time speaking on this platform.
Yes,
right?
Prabhu.
Okay, so my name is Sahadev Das De Richard.
Nice to meet you, Sadhu, Prabhu.
And I usually host this program with my senior godbrother, Stalika Prabhu. And there are a couple of other devotees who host from time to time also.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is basically like the normal temple room setting of speaking Bhagavatam. And we usually speak for about an hour, and then devotees ask questions and answers. But depending on the speaker, sometimes the speaker chooses to make it interactive. And if you want to do that, I mean, the ball is in your court. You handle it the way you want to. Okay. Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, today we are very fortunate to have the association and blessing of His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. Personally, I've been following you online for quite a while. So I understand a little bit about who you are as a devotee. Of course, nobody can understand a devotee, but I understand a little bit because of following you online. So we are very much happy to have your association here today. So dear devotees, we urge you all to pay very close attention to what is going to be shared or discussed on this platform today. And I'm not supposed to bet, but I can assure you that we all leave here so much satisfied. So, Prabhuji, without further ado, the ball is in your court. You have the sharing rights, so you can handle it the way you want to.
Okay, thank you, Sadhu Prabhu. I want to just comment, first of all, that you are going in and out. And I don't know if it's because your internet connection or because of my internet connection, but I've only got one connection option here. So if I freeze or something, you could like wave your hands or something. Okay. I think it's a decent connection, but I can't promise. That's the way it is. So
far, so good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So before we speak on the Bhagavatam, my Guru Maharaj, Sri SRIMAD Gauragovinda Maharaj, instructed me once that I should offer prayers of the Bhagavatam, because in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says that Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashray Pratyakshari Pratishloki Pratyakshari Nanatakoi, that just as Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. And just as we offer prayers to Krishna, we also offer prayers to the Bhagavatam. So I'm going to recite some of those prayers that he instructed me to do. I'm not going to, but I'll recite some of them, just the first part. And you can look on the screen here at the same time if you want. Narayanam namaskrityam naramschaiva narotamam Devam saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat Vedi ramayaneschaiva purane bharate tata Adabande chamadye chahari sarvatra giyate Mukam korode vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dina Paranam Paramananda Madhavam. And traditionally he would sing a song which is from Orissa. In Orissa traditionally they have what they call Bhagavatungis. Bhagavattungi is a place where the whole village would come together every day and they would hear Srimad Bhagavatam and they would do kirtan together. And before they would speak on the Bhagavatam, they would sing this particular song, which I'll go ahead with myself. Paramananda he Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda She Makaranda Panakori Anande Vanda Vela Parikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Paraye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu HARE KRISHNA Boli Jiva Jao Hare Krishna boli jao jiva, mote udara radha dava, mote udara radha dava, mote udara radha dava. Dharma projita kaitavo chaparamone macharanam satam Vidyam vastava mattavastu shivadam tapachayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune kate kimva parayishvara Sadyo hridyavarudhyate chakritivishu shushu vistakshanat Nigamakalpataro galitam phalam shukamukadamita dravasamyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhurahora Shika Bhavuka Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, hello all the devotees. It's a wonderful thing to get a chance to come together with the devotees and hear and chant something about Srimad Bhagavatam. So, I'll share with you the screen here. Today we're speaking from actually one of my very favorite verses in the Bhagavatam. This is from Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 48. And in this verse, Srila Shukadeva Goswami is speaking about the glories of Maharaj Parikshit, and we'll say a few different things about this verse. I'm going to go ahead and read the Sanskrit by myself here. Tiraskrita vipralabdaha sapta kshipta hatahapi nashyata pratikurvanti tadbhakta prabhavopi. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Srila Prabhupada comments, Rishi Shamika also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. Curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees would take very strong action. It was a personal affair. And therefore Shamaka Rishi knew that the Lord would not take counteraction. The king would not take counteraction, Thus there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not that only the Brahmins are powerful enough to award curses or blessings upon their subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmin, is more powerful than a Brahmin. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for his personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service toward the Lord and his devotees only. And here's a little translation from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's short purport. Vishwanath comments that actually Maharaj Parikshit had the ability that he could have counter-cursed Shringi, the boy, and made the curse ineffective. And then Prabhupada, Vishwanath gives a different translation for the word prabhava. Prabhava means power. Prabhupada translates prabhava as this is the power of the devotees that they're able to tolerate. But Vishwanath here indicates that the devotees of prabhava in this verse means that they're capable of cursing back, but they don't take countermeasures against those who criticize or scold them. Gora graganya gana go to goloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Panchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, one thing we should understand, that when we hear Srimad book, because the Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Krishna, and the Bhagavatam will speak to us, will give us messages which are very relevant to all of us. So when we hear the Bhagavatam, we should be trying to look and see, what does Krishna have to say for me right now? Because the Bhagavatam is always relevant for us. So in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami is explaining about why it is that Maharaj Parikshit didn't counter-curse Shringi. He could have saved himself. And Shringi's father would have been actually happy about that, because Samaka Rishi was very unhappy with his son that he dared to commit such a great offense against a Vaishnava such as Maharaj Parikshit. But Maharaj Parikshit was so tolerant because he's a devotee. And this verse indicates the Prabhava. Prabhava is an important word in this verse. Prabhava means the power. This is what Shukadeva Goswami calls the Bhakta Prabhava, or the power of a devotee. So what does it mean when a devotee is powerful? Does it just mean that the devotee can distribute a lot of books, or they're a good cook, or they know a lot of shlokas, or they're very handsome or beautiful, they're a good singer or dancer? Prabhava. So this verse describes what that is. And it describes 5 different ways that people may try to hurt us. And the Bhakta Prabhava, or the power of a devotee, is that they're not disturbed by these ways that people may try to hurt us. Tiraskritaha. Tiraskrita means that someone may try to criticize the devotees and say bad things about them. But the devotee, in spite of that, they tolerate. And nashyata pratikurvanti, they don't try to counteract, even though someone comes and says bad things about them. And we can consider ourselves in this regard. Is our situation like that? If someone comes and says, did you know that Sahadev, that guy, he's like this and that. If someone comes and starts criticizing us, are we able to tolerate that? Maharaj Parikshit showed us the example. He's able to do that. Vipralabdha. Vipralabdha means to be cheated. Just like the word vipralamba means to be separated. And it means vipralamba in that sense means to be cheated from the association of our beloved. So although someone may try to cheat us, they may try to take our money and do some scam on us, the devotee tolerates. He is cursed Maharaj Parikshit, and he tolerates. Shiptaha. Shipta means that they may just neglect them. You go somewhere, you're very tired, you arrive after a long journey, you're thirsty, you're hungry, you want to rest, and nobody gives you a proper welcome. They don't offer you anything to drink or anything. But a devotee just tolerates that. And hatta, even if someone tries to kill a devotee, the word hatta means to kill, the devotee can tolerate that. So this is the nature of a devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Adi Leela chapter 7, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has described this Prabhava, or the devotee, I'm going to go ahead and sing this verse to you in Bengali. Taru sama sahishnuta Vaishnava koribe Bhartsana tadane kake kichu na balibe. He says that a devotee, this is his nature, the taru sama. Taru means like a tree, and sama means the same. Sahishnuta means their ability to tolerate. This is the bhakta prabhava, the power of a devotee. They can tolerate in the same way that a tree can tolerate. Someone comes and carves their initials in the tree. The tree doesn't complain. It's blazing hot sun, the tree doesn't complain. It's freezing cold with ice, and the tree doesn't complain. Even if the tree burns up or the tree dies, it doesn't complain. This is a bhakta prabhava. How is it that the devotees have this power? And what is the difference between this power of the devotees and some mundane neglect, or even there's a sense in English where someone, they like to be hurt. Someone is a masochist. We have this word in English. It means they like to be tortured. They like to suffer. So is this like the masochist? Or is this like sometimes a psychiatrist will tell you that you have to stand up for yourself? But what the devotee is tolerating like a tree, does it mean the devotees are very weak? Taru samasahasnata Vaishnava koribe bhartsana tadane. Bhartsana means someone is chastising them. Then still, kichu na bolibe. They don't speak anything back. They don't chastise. They don't try to rebuke that person. There's a nice verse in the Sanat Kumar Samhita which speaks like this. It uses the same word, bhartsanam. Tad Vaishnavanam chad tad grayam tata budai. That just as someone who's a very lusty person, he gets some pleasure. He's a kami, he's a lusty person. And bogat dini yatastriyaha. He gets pleasure when tadanam bhartsanam, when his mistress beats him, chastises him. So in the same way, it said a wise person, budai, ganati vaishnavanam cha tad grayam tata budai. They take pleasure in the chastisement and beating offered by the devotees. So if a devotee comes and chastises us, we get some pleasure from that. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to accept everything the devotee tells us. Sometimes someone comes to us and says, Prabhu, you should just be humble and simple, and I'm senior to you, and so you should accept what I have to tell you. Sahadev Prabhu is smiling. I think you've met some people like that before, Sahadev. I've met too many people like that in my life. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he once said that I offer my obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, but I reserve the right to decide who I'm going to listen to. I give respect to everyone, but it doesn't mean that I have to try to follow everybody's instruction. You'll just completely go crazy. Just so mad. We have to ultimately make our own decisions about things. So the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu defines what is tolerance in the first section, the first wave of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the third chapter. I'll go ahead and put this verse on the screen. It's a nice verse. Rupa Goswami defines what is tolerance. Tatra Shantihi. Shanti means peace. Shanti means to be able to tolerate. He says, Shobha hetav api prapte chantir akshut bitat mata. That it means that Shobha hetav, that even when there's some cause, hetav means a cause, to be disturbed, still we're shanti. We're undisturbed, even though that there's some reason for being disturbed. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a very nice commentary in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, where he explains that he says that when people give up the materialistic path, let me go ahead and put this on the screen too. It's a really beautiful purport. This is 11:23:5. We can consider what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is saying. The English translation of the verse is that once a certain sannyasi was insulted and was suffering the fruit of his own previous karma. I'll narrate to you his story and that which he spoke. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his commentary, he says that oftentimes those people who give up the materialistic path and devote themselves to renunciation are attacked by impious persons. Devotees. They give up the materialistic path and you take to a devotional path, and very often you're attacked and criticized by impious persons. He says, but this analysis, however, is superficial. It's just external. Since the punishment is actually the cumulative result of one's past karma. It's just whatever we suffer, we should see that this is just a result of my own karma. And then he goes on, he says, some renunciates show a lack of tolerance when presented with the remnants of their previous sins, and thus they're forced again to enter again under the path of impious life. So, in other words, if some people, they take to the path of spiritual life, the path of renunciation, giving up material life, and then they get the result of some of their own past karma, and they can't tolerate that. And if you can't tolerate that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, then you'll become forced to enter again on the path of impious life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore instructs if a neophyte on the path of devotional service of the Lord's pure devotees is attacked by envious persons, he must accept it as a consequence of his previous fruitive activities. One should be intelligent and avoid future unhappiness by rejecting the ethic of an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth. If one refuses to enter into enmity with envious men, they'll automatically leave him alone. Many years ago, I remember one sadhu, old sadhu, was close friends of my Guru Maharaj from Orissa. He once told me, he said, there's a secret to bhajan that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us. And that secret is amani no manadena, that you give all respect to everyone and you don't demand any respect for yourself. And he said to me that if you do that, then people will leave you alone. The same point is being made here by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. They won't take you very seriously. And then that'll free you to be able to do your nam-bhajan. Because our nam-bhajan is really why we've come here. We want to change the world. But first of all, we should look within ourselves and have the strength to change ourselves. In Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in another place, he says that change begins when we begin to hear the chanting of the holy name. And he said the first symptom that we're actually hearing the holy name because we see then, by hearing the holy name, we see that Krishna's everywhere, everything is going just fine. And in that situation, we get the ability to change ourselves. And unless we change ourselves first, there's no question of being able to try to change anyone else. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the same section I was just reading from, same chapter, Adi Lila, chapter 17, which speaks about, where Kaviraj Goswami was speaking about how a devotee is so tolerant. The wonderful example given is that of Srivas Thakur. And he speaks about Srivas Thakur. He says, Ek dina vipra nam Gopal Chapal. That one day, Ek dina, this vipra, this Brahmin, whose name was Gopal Chapal, Pashandi Pradhan, who is the Pashandi Pradhan, he gives him some respectful address. Pradhan means the best. He's the Pashandi Pradhan. He's the best of all the atheists, of all the nonsense people, the Gopal Chapal. Say Durmukh Vachala. He's a very talkative Vachala person. He's a Durmukh. He's very angry. He's very harsh words. and very harsh in speech. That night, Bhavani Pujara Shabha Samagri Lana. He took all the samagri or the paraphernalia, goddess Durga, Ratri Srivasera Dvore Stani Lepana. And he put them all over put that paraphernalia outside the Srivas Thakur's door. Now that paraphernalia included alcohol and some meat, and different very nasty things. And you would think that if it would be you or me, probably when we wake up in the morning, we come out and see that there, we'd look around both ways and make sure nobody was looking, and then we'd clean it all up right away. But Srivas Thakur, what happened with him, he called for everybody in the neighborhood, and with a smile, he happily addressed all of them. And he said, Nitya Ratre Kori Ami Bhavani Puja. This is what I do every night. You're wondering what I'm doing. You think you hear all this sound about kirtan, and some people say that I'm a saintly person, that I'm doing kirtan all night, and other people criticize. Well, now you know the truth. The truth is that every night I just worship the goddess Bhavani, and all these paraphernalia that you see here, that's from that worship, and you can understand my situation. This was the attitude of Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur is the incarnation of Narad Muni. And Srivas Thakur is our within the Panchatattva, that he is in charge of all the devotees. Therefore we say Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Srivas Adi, Adi means etc. Meaning Srivas Thakur and all the great devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur, in many of the pastimes, in this pastime and also in the pastime of this personality who was speaking the Bhagavatam, and Srivas Thakur fell unconscious in his assembly, and he became envious and had Srivas Thakur thrown out. His name's slipping my mind, I can't remember. Anyway, from both of these examples, we see Srivas Thakur is shown as someone who can tolerate. And as a devotee, even though he's the most exalted devotee, even though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, God himself is coming and doing kirtan in his house every night, along with Lord Brahma in the form of Haridas Thakur, along with Lord Sadashiva Mahavishnu, or Lord Shiva, Advaita Charja, along with the greatest of personalities coming and doing kirtan every day in his home. But Srivas Thakur is not thinking that I'm such a special person. And it's not in his heart to argue. Chiraskritya vipralabdha saptakshipta hatapi nashyata pratikurvanti. This is the power of a devotee. A mundane person can't tolerate it. If someone criticizes them, if someone cheats them, if someone neglects them, if someone tries to hurt them, or to speak of try to kill them. But a devotee can very easily tolerate that. How and why? Because a devotee sees something much, much more important. The devotee is just simply absorbed in Krishna. Narottam Das Thakur, he's sung a wonderful song in his Prem Bhakti Chandrika, which we have written on our wall. He says, Karmi Gyani Mitya Bhakta Nahobe Tate Anurakta. He said, don't be attached. Anurakta means don't be attached. Rakta means be attached. Anurakta, don't be attached to whatever the karmis, gyanis, and Mitya Bhakta. Mitya Bhakta means the false devotees. Whatever they're doing, don't be attached to that. Rather, instead, be Shuddha Bhajana Koroman. You should do pure bhajan. In other words, if you're attached and you're so disturbed, like, did you hear what those false devotees did? This guy is so bogus, this scandal is there, this person, this and this. If we're absorbed in that thing, then we're not doing pure bhajan. For a devotee, there's no question of hate. Srila Prabhupada, he's described in chapter 3. beautiful, powerful statement. And very nice right after Christmas also. Prabhupada says, as Lord Jesus Christ said, we should hate the sin and not the sinner. So that's the behavior, that's the attitude of a devotee. We don't hate a sinner, we don't hate a bad person, but we hate the sin. We have no tolerance for that. Prabhupada says because the sinner is under illusion, he's mad. If we hate him, how can we deliver him? Therefore, those who are advanced devotees, who are really servants of God, do not hate anyone. When Lord Jesus Christ was being crucified, he said, my God, forgive them. They know not what they do. This is the proper attitude of an advanced devotee. He understands that the conditioned souls cannot be hated because they become mad due to their materialistic way of thinking. In this Krishna consciousness movement, there's no question of hating anyone. Everyone is welcome to come and chant Hare Krishna, take Krishna Prasad, listen to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and try to rectify material conditioned life. This is the essential program of Krishna consciousness. This is a Bhakta Prabhava, the power of the devotee. They can do something which even the most powerful persons can't do. You may Muhammad Ali was a very powerful person in terms of boxing and fighting, but he couldn't tolerate when someone would say something bad about him. Mr. Putin's a very powerful person. He's in charge of Russia, but he can't tolerate if someone says anything bad about him. But a devotee of the Lord, like Maharaj Parikshit, even though he's cursed to die, he accepts that curse because he sees this is what Krishna wants. And I just want to do whatever Krishna wants. And I'm not interested, I'm not angry, I'm not upset with that person. This is what Krishna's desire is. There's a nice book written by a Vaishnava named Naba Goswami, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about in his autobiography, in which also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave as recommended reading as part of the Bhakti Shastri course. The book is called the Bhakta Mala. There's a number of different Bhakta Malas. Part of our service, we work in Jagannath Puri, and we have a Vaishnava Research Institute, and we study a lot of different books. So literature is a very important and interesting subject matter in our society, in our line. Anyway, this Bhakta Mala of Naba Goswami was appreciated by Bhaktivinoda and by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And he tells a very beautiful story there of one of the Lord's greatest devotees, who was Jayadev Goswami. Come to his home. And Jayadev came there and he did some kirtan and things. And then that wealthy devotee wanted to give him some money as a donation. But Jayadev Goswami didn't need it, didn't want it. He thought, I'm just dependent on Krishna. Sometimes devotees in our society, we accept that money on Srila Prabhupada's instruction to engage those wealthy people and to help push on the Krishna consciousness movement. But Jayadev Goswami is not building temples and printing books. He's just a simple devotee doing bhajan. So he had no need for any of that. And he's dependent on Krishna. So he said, no, there's no need. I'm okay. But that wealthy man really wanted to give him something. So when Jayadev wasn't looking, the wealthy man went to the chadar, the cloth of Jayadev, and he took some gold coins and he tied them up in the corner of Jayadev's chadar. And Jayadev didn't notice that. He's so absorbed in chanting and thinking of the Lord. When he left that wealthy man's home to go to his ashram, as he was walking, he met with some thieves. And he didn't recognize that they were thieves initially. He just saw some people walking on the path. And he said, oh, my good sirs, where are you going? And they said, oh, we're going the same place you're going, without hearing from him where he's going. And so he said, oh, he understood that they were bad people. And by this time, he discovered the gold coins in his chadar. So he untied that chadar and he said, I have this this weight on my chadar. It's causing me some problem. You should take this and be happy. And he gave that money to them. And the thieves, rather than being satisfied or pleased by that, actually they were thinking to themselves, oh, he's a very clever person. He's afraid that we're going to take everything from him. But he's thinking that later on, when we arrive in a town, that he's going to have us arrested. So they were thinking like that, and they kept some distance then from Jayadev Goswami while they were all continuing to walk. And then they started speaking amongst themselves. And one of them said, brothers, we should kill him. Because when we get to the town, then he's going to turn us in. Another one said, he gave us all the money. What's the use of killing him? And then another thief, he said, yeah, but if he recognizes us later on and tells the king about us to punish us, and what are we going to do? And then a fourth one said, here's what we do. We don't kill him, and we also don't leave him alone. We should break his arms and legs and throw him into this deep ditch here and leave him there to a more pious kind of thing to do. So they agreed with that idea, and all of a sudden they jumped on Jayadev Goswami, and they broke his arms and legs, and they threw him in the ditch, and he returned home. Later, a few days later, the king of the area, his name was Lakshman Singh, happened to be passing by in that road, and he heard some sound coming from the ditch. What is this? And it was beautiful singing. Hare Krishna, Hare. He heard some celestial voice in the ditch chanting Hare Krishna. And what is this? He got down from his chariot and went and looked in the ditch, and he saw there this crazy guy lying there in the ditch, clearly with the arms and legs broken, but he looked so blissful and happy, chanting Hare Krishna. And the king was very disturbed, and he said, well, what happened to you? Huh? And Jayadev said, oh, this is a result of my karma. Some bad thing happened to me. And then the king could understand, this is a very great saint. And he felt himself very fortunate. So he put Jayadev Goswami in a palanquin and brought him to his palace. And then he had the doctors take care of him, and he healed all the wounds on Jayadev Goswami. And then the king told Jayadev, he said, for a long time, great devotee. And now that that desire has been fulfilled, please order me, what service can I do for you? And Jayadev, he said, well, you could arrange for some nice sweets and different foodstuffs and offer them every day to Krishna, to Jagannath. And then afterwards, you take the prasadam and give it to all the devotees. And you should always be ready to greet and serve the Lord's devotees. Out of love and compassion on the king, Jayadev Goswami gave him such a beautiful instruction. And so the king then, taking that instruction to heart, he started serving the devotees in so many ways, and his fame became spread all over the world. And one day, those same thieves, they heard about how generous the king was to sadhus. And so they decided, we're going to dress up like sadhus, and we'll go see the king, and he'll give us so much wealth and nice food and things. So they put some tilak on and some kuntimala, neck beads and things, and they came to the king. And it just so happened, when they arrived, the same persons who tried to kill Jayadev Goswami, broke his arms and legs and threw him in the ditch, Jayadev Goswami was there with the king when they arrived. And as soon as they saw Jayadev, they all became very nervous. But Jayadev Goswami became, senior godbrothers have come. And Jayadev treated them like great devotees. And he said, these are very elevated devotees. You should serve them. You're very fortunate they've come to your house. You should serve them with faith and devotion and be blessed. And so then the king, he took special care of those persons who are actually thieves who tried to kill Jayadev Goswami. And he had very nice foodstuffs made for them and nice rooms put aside for them and things. But those thieves became full of anxiety because they've done so many sinful things. And this is a result of sinful activities. When we perform sinful activities, we get in great anxiety. On the other hand, the Bhakta Prabhava, the power of the devotee is they don't see any problems. They don't see any anxieties because they're so absorbed in Krishna. So because the thieves, although they were dressed like devotees, it wasn't enough. They were in great anxiety because of all the sinful things they'd done. But Jayadev Goswami was completely peaceful. So they saw Jayadev and they became very, very nervous. They thought he's going to turn us in and have the king kill us. It's very bad. So they asked the king, he said, actually we're very detached sadhus and we don't stay in one place for very long. And it's time enough now for us to go. And so then give them a lot of wealth and let them go. And so then the king gave them so much valuable silk cloth and jewels and ornaments and things and gold coins and let them go. And then he sent a few guards to go with them to carry their bags and to help protect them on the road. The king said, because I've heard there's thieves on the road. And those thieves and the guys are devotees. They said, yes, sir. We've also heard something like that. So as they were carrying the bags of those thieves, the king's guards were walking behind them. And after some time, they all stopped and they were resting and they started talking. And the guards, they asked these so-called devotees, they said, please don't mind us asking, but to be really honest with you, we've never seen any devotees like you before. We've seen many different sadhus come and visit our king, but we've never seen the way our king served you and the way Jayadev respected you. So you should please tell us, what is it with you and Jayadev? What is your connection? And then those thieves became a little more nervous. And one of them said, well, this is really confidential. He said, but I'll tell you the truth, but don't tell this to everyone else. But previously, you're Jayadev. You think that he's a great Swami, that he's a great sadhu. Once he committed a very serious offense. He stole some things, and the king ordered us to kill him. But we considered him to be our friend. And so we didn't kill him, we just broke his arms and legs. And because we showed him this mercy, that's why Jayadev respects us so much. They told this terrible lie like this. They showed no gratitude. And Shastra describes that the nature of a civilized person is they show gratitude. Kritagya means someone who shows gratitude. Kritagya in Sanskrit also is a synonym for kukur or dog, because the dog is very grateful. You give the dog just a little bit of food and it's very happy. So a wise person is Kritagya. Kritagya means, Krita means the order, to do something. Agya means the instruction. Krita means to do it. Agya means the instruction. When we accept the instruction from a superior person, then by doing so, we're showing gratitude. And someone, Krit Agna, different word, Krit Agna, who doesn't, Krit Agna means someone who's ungrateful. And literally speaking, it means someone who's a killer of themselves. If we're not grateful. So these thieves, although Jayadev Goswami could have had them killed, Jayadev told the king, you give them money and things, and still those thieves were so ungrateful, such rascals. They were criticizing Jayadev behind his back. So as they told the story, an amazing thing happened. And Nabadas and Bhaktamala says, suddenly the ground started shaking. And it cracked open. There was like a great earthquake. The ground cracked open, and all of those gundas, those thieves dressed like sadhus, fell into that crack, and then the ground closed up again. And when they saw that, the royal guards, they were very astonished. And they ran back to Jayadev Goswami and they told him everything that had happened. And what was Jayadev Goswami's reaction? If it might have been me, I might have thought, yeah, those guys, they really got what they deserved. Jayadev Goswami began to cry. His body began to shake. And the king, the guards went to the king, and they also told the king everything. And the king went to Jayadev then and said, my dear Lord, what happened? Why did the earth crack open? And why did these saintly persons enter into that? And so Jayadev Goswami, when he was asked this by the king, waiting the day, Tiraskritya Vipralabdha Saptakshita Hatapi Nashyata Pratikurvanti Tabhakta Prabhavopihi. That my dear king, no matter how evil persons try to deal with saintly persons, the saintly persons never retaliate. On the other hand, their strength is to Bhakta Prabhava, is that they try to do good even to their enemies. The devotees, their natures are always working to help all living entities. They're full of compassion, they're sober, they're kind, they have all devotional sentiments. And one who understands this fact, then they get the blessings of saintly persons and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada spoke about this on a number of different occasions. I'd like to share with you a couple of things Srila Prabhupada said. He wrote in letters to devotees. Because in our society, there's many conflicts. It's a difficult thing to understand. Sometimes we think that our strength would be that if we all behaved alike and we all think alike. But actually, that's incorrect. Our real strength is in our diversity, not conformity. Our weakness is in conformity. If everybody's exactly the same, then our society is very weak. In our society, then we have a strong society. So let me read you a couple of quotes from Srila Prabhupada in letters where Prabhupada spoke with disciples who were feeling problems from devotees in the movement. And Prabhupada wrote, this is a letter to my friend Babru, who's now a sannyasi. The 9th of December 1973, Prabhupada said, now we have, by Krishna's grace, built up something significant in the shape of this ISKCON, and we're all one family. Sometimes there may be disagreement and quarrel, but we should not go away. These inebrities or these problems can be adjusted by, Prabhupada then gives three things, by the cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. So I request you to kindly remain in the association of our devotees and work together. The test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate. So there's three things that we can do, we can cultivate to be able to have this Bhakta Prabhava. And Prabhupada says, cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. We cooperate together for the sake of Srila Prabhupada. We tolerate foods and things. And with maturity, we understand that some devotees are not so elevated yet. And this way we have this Bhakta Prabhava, we have the strength that we can tolerate so many things. And we see that strength noted in the next letter. This is written to a lady, Brenda Devi, 14th of October 1971. She was living in Germany at that time. Prabhupada said to her, I've noted your several complaints against the devotees, but it would be better to set the example than to criticize the defects of the devotees. We should always remember that we recruit members from the people in general. It's not expected that every one of our members should be immediately to the standard qualification. The best thing for you is to set the example by your personal behavior and try to reform the others, not by criticizing. but by friendly behavior. So that's a question of maturity. I think in this letter, Prabhupada is explaining us what that maturity is, that we should understand that so many different people are joining this movement, and they're not up to the standard yet. But we have to tolerate that, and we can tolerate that if we understand, if we have some maturity. But if we don't have maturity, then we can't tolerate, just like a small child, you see two children together, and one child takes another upset, how dare you do that, and they get in a big fight, and it's just over a piece of stupid candy. Who cares about that? But for the small child, they think it's such a big, important thing. So the Bhakta Prabhava, the strength of the devotee is they can tolerate all these things because they're chanting japa. If we chant good 16 rounds, at least 16 rounds, as my Guru Maharaj used to say, you rise early in the morning and try to chant 16 rounds, start to finish at one time. And if you do that in a concentrated way, you'll find you'll have this Bhakta Prabhava, this power of the devotees to tolerate so many things. Even someone's cursing you, someone is criticizing you, someone's neglecting you, someone's trying to steal from you or cheat you, someone's even trying to kill you. But the devotee can tolerate all that. There's another nice story I'd like to share with you if I can. This is a story from South India. And Srila Ramanujacharya. Ramanuja, it's a long story. He had a disciple, his name was Dhanurdas. Dhanar means a bow. Dhanar means fighting. There's a Dhanar Veda. It's the Shastra speaking about how to fight. And Dhanurdas was a wrestler. And he wasn't like a very high-class person, but he loved his Guru Maharaj Ramanuja very much. His humility, his honesty, and his gentle behavior, everybody came to love Dhanurdas. And Dhanurdas, when Ramanuja would go to take bath in the Kaveri River, he would hold Dhanurdas's arm when he was returning from the Kaveri River after taking bath, after he's clean. But on the way to the river, he would hold the arm of a Brahmin. And the devotees noticed this in some of his Ramanuja's Brahmin disciples, is that this is not good. This Dhanurdas is a lower birth. And how is it that after taking bath, Guru Maharaj puts his arm on this Dhanurdas's arm for support? It's really not good. So Ramanuja understood that there was some envy in the hearts of some of his disciples. And as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once told the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Amoga, in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu told Amoga, he said that how is it you've allowed envy to reside in the heart of a Vaishnava, of a Brahmin? He said envy has no place there. So seeing that some of his own disciples had become envious, Ramanuja decided to teach them a lesson that would teach them what is the proper understanding of the Ramanuja went out to those brahmachari Brahmins who were criticizing the Grihastha, Dhanurdas, and Ramanuja tore a small strip of cloth off of each one of the dhotis of those brahmacharis. And that piece of cloth is maybe this big, like the size of a kopan or something, for those who wear kopans. And the next morning, when those brahmacharis woke up, they said, hey, someone tore my dhoti. Did you do this? No, you did this. And there was a big fight took place with them. Until finally Ramanuja himself had to go there and calm them all down. Stop fighting, it's okay. And so, but Ramanuja didn't reveal that he was the one who personally came and tore the piece of cloth off. That night, Ramanuja called some of those brahmachari Brahmins, brahmacharis who were born in Brahmin families to him, and he said, I want you to do something for me. Yeah? He said, I am sure that all of you have noticed that this Danadas, he's acting like a great devotee, but in reality, he's just a very attached householder. He's so attached to his wife. So I want you to go and test him, and we'll see his real situation. So every night, usually he comes to have some talks with me. So tonight, I'll keep him here longer with me. I want you to go to his house and steal all the very valuable ornaments, the gold and diamonds and things that he decorates his wife with. I mean, what kind of devotee is it who spends money to decorate his wife? Ramanuja was saying like that. And those brahmacharis said, yes, Guru Maharaj, that's really big Maya. You should give everything to support the devotees in the ashram like us. That's a proper grihastha. And so that night, when Danadas arrived to speak to Ramanuja, they went to his house, his ashram, and they saw his wife laying there sleeping on the bed. The door wasn't locked, so those brahmacharis entered into the house very quietly. And she was laying on one side of her body, and they started very quietly taking off her earring, her nose ring on the side, and some of her golden bangles and her ankle bells and things. Actually, that lady, she was a devotee and she was awake, but she was pretending she was pretending to be asleep so she wouldn't disturb those brahmacharis. And so when they took all the ornaments from one side of her body, then that good lady, she thought, so they can take the other ornaments because these brahmacharis must need something. Maybe they're hungry or something. They don't have enough wealth. And so she rolled over. And when she rolled over, the brahmacharis became afraid. They thought she's waking up. And so they all ran away and they went back. And they made a report to Ramanuja. And then Ramanuja, he called for Danadas and he told him, now you should go home. It's getting late. And as soon as he left, then Ramanuja told those brahmacharis, says, now I want you to go follow Danadas back to his house. And you watch and see what his reaction is to this terrible loss, because you guys brought piles of gold, like tens of thousands of US dollars worth of gold, ornaments and things. It's a huge loss that his wife had just suffered now. You guys stole so much, and I want you to go and see what his reaction is. And so they did that. They were sitting outside the window watching. And Danadas arrived, and he looked at his wife, and he said, what's going on? Why is it you have jewels and ornaments on one side, diamonds in it, but on the other side you don't? And his wife, she folded her hands and said, my dear good husband, while you were gone, some brahmacharis came, and no doubt maybe they didn't have enough to eat or something. They were very hungry, and they've been forced to take up the behavior of a thief. So names of Krishna in my mind. And so they must have thought I was sleeping. And they took all the ornaments from one side. And so then when they did that, I acted like I was still asleep, and I rolled over so they could take them from the other side. But they got frightened. They got frightened, I think, from my movement, and they all ran away. When Danadas heard this, he became so angry. And all those brahmacharis were watching her, shaking their head. Yeah, see, just see how. And he started chastising her. He said, nonsense, woman. You are in Maya. If you weren't in Maya, then because you're in Maya, you're thinking those ornaments belong to you, and you'll give them away. When you understand, you give up that idea, and you understand that everything belongs to Gurudev and to Krishna. If you would understand that, then you would have been able to give everything to the Brahmins. You would have been more expert when you rolled over to not make them run away. And the wife, she bowed her head. So, my dear husband, I'm very sorry. Please bless me. I can become free from this illusion one day. And so then the brahmacharis went back, and Ramanuja said, so what happened? And they told Ramanuja the whole story. And by that time, it was really late at night, so Ramanuja told him to go take rest. And then the next morning, he called for all those brahmacharis. Learned scholars. You're born in Brahmin families. So now I want you to tell me, you're great brahmacharis. I want you to tell me who was really behaving as a Vaishnav. You, yesterday morning when you found your cloth was a little bit shorter, or Dhanardas and his wife when the jewels were stolen from them. And the brahmacharis, they hung their head and they said, Guru Maharaj, it was Dhanardas. he was actually behaving like a Vaishnav. We acted in a very bad way. We got so angry because this little strip of cloth was gone. So this is the behavior of a Vaishnav. A Vaishnav, tad bhakta prabhavo pihi. A Vaishnav has strength. Strength which is based upon bhakti. I want to finish with a verse from the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 11. I'm going to share this with you. This is such a beautiful verse. It's one of my favorite verses. This is spoken by Dhruva Maharaj to the Lord. Bhaktim muhu pravahatam dvahime prasango bhuyadananda mahatam amalasayanam yenanja sobhanamuru vyasanam bhavabdim. He said, all unlimited Lord, may I always have the association of great devotees with pure hearts who perform bhakti to you. By this association, intoxicated from drinking the nectar of your pastimes and qualities, I shall easily combat the ocean of material existence full of terrible suffering. Neshe means to be able to cross over. Neshe bhavad gunakatamrita panamata. Because panamata, I'm drinking this amrit, this nectar of Krishna Katha, and I'm going mad. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given a very amazing commentary on this verse. He says first, Satcha Shavana Kirtanamoyi Bhakti Sat Sangam Vina Nasudasi Bhavatiti Sat Sangam Pratayate. That even though you're doing bhakti, that hearing and chanting is not sweet unless you have proper association. And then he explains Dhruva Maharaj's attitude. And he says that Dhruva Maharaj is raising his hands in pride. And he's speaking. He says, let the terrible ocean of material life, which is full of countless pains, let it come. I'm going to overcome it. He said, nothing is impossible for me because pastimes. And the qualities of material life, such as envy and ignorance and hatred, they can't make this drunkard suffer. Even death can't touch the person who's drunk this nectar. So because I'm drinking this nectar, I'm not afraid of any of these things. This is Bhakta Prabhava. This is the power of the devotees. Because they have this potion, this wonderful, wonderful nectar, Guna Katamrita Panamata. They drink this nectar of Krishna Katha. They're absorbed in Krishna Katha. They become completely intoxicated. And just like a drunkard on the street, if you go up to the drunkard and you say, hey man, you're like the ugliest guy I've ever seen, he just starts laughing. And even if you tell him, your mother is like a really bad person, he'll start laughing at that. Because it's the nature of a drunkard. They just can't take anything seriously. So when we're drunk on Krishna Katha, when we're drunk on Krishna Bhajan, then we get this special strength, this Prabhava, Bhakta Prabhava, that Tiraskrita Vipalabdaha Saptak Shipta Hatapi Nashyata Pratikurvanti Tad Bhakta Prabhavo Pihi. We get this strength that even though someone is coming and criticizing us, cheating us, cursing us, neglecting us, or even trying to still the devotees, Nashyata pratikurvanti. They don't try to counteract that. This is bhakta prabhava. This is the power of a devotee. So I think this is a very relevant subject for all of us. And we need to look in our hearts and see, do I have this strength? Can I tolerate when someone just comes to me and says, hey, Sahadev, what are you wearing a red shirt for? That's not good. You're not supposed to wear red. Then we become, hey, what do you mean? What's wrong with my shirt? There's nothing wrong with my shirt. We become very upset just about the smallest little thing. But the devotees like Jayadev Goswami and like Danudas and like others with these stories are telling, the devotees have this power. They can tolerate everything. And if we want to become warriors for Srila Prabhupada and be able to spread this movement, the strength of the warriors in Prabhupada's movement, the Bhakta Prabhava, the power of these warriors in Prabhupada's movement is not strength of muscle or military might, but our strength is ability to tolerate, which comes from deep hearing and chanting. So we'll go ahead and stop there. And I don't know, maybe Sadhya Prabhu told me that there should be some time for discussion or questions or answers or anything. So anybody has anything can go ahead. I hope that's okay, Sadhya. We didn't go too long.
No, not at all. I mean, it's up to you. So much nectar. Wow, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dear devotees, please, if you have a question, comment, realizations to share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand. You'll be asked to unmute and you go ahead and speak. Prabhuji, what you gave us, so nectarian, and because it's so much nectarian, that also means that there are some things that needs to be chanted and bring them out. So I think some of such is going to come from the Q&A. Madhavan Bhavati, please unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class, what I could hear of it. I have some workmen here, so I've been kind of in and out. But I guess I heard what I was supposed to hear. And I just wanted to say thank you for letting me see what a non-devotee I am, especially when you were talking about, being tolerant of direct criticism and so on. My question, well, I actually have one question and then one comment. My question is, however, I understand being tolerant to a point. However, sometimes people can be absolutely abusive. And my question is, if we don't check that, are we not allowing that person to incur, negative karma? And then don't we share in that karma for not checking them?
Very good question. Thank you. We have to decide, it depends on who it is that we're dealing with. It's like some small children may criticize us, but we may decide it's really not worth my time to defend myself with these children and explain actually why it is that I'm wearing this red shirt and it's actually okay. And make such an explanation. Maybe it's not necessary with these small children. I just tolerate. Or sometimes, as in the case of Haridas Thakur with Gopal Chappal, when he was criticized and he was challenged, and they asked him in the meeting, they said, can you tell us about the glories of the holy name? And Haridas Thakur, he said that mukti tucha phala hoy nama basa hoite, that just the tucha phala, the insignificant.
Oh, it's broke.
There, heard that, he became so angry. And he told Haridas Thakur, he said that if liberation is such an easy thing to get just by namabas, I'll cut off your nose. If it's not true, I'll cut off your nose. And Haridas Thakur said, if it's not true, I'll cut my nose off. Well, a few days later, the devotee got a reaction, that Brahmin got a reaction. He got leprosy and his nose fell off. What was Haridas Thakur's reaction to that? He felt so terrible and he left. He was staying in the community. He was working with the Vaishnava community. But it was at that point especially that he went, and Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Advaita Acharya made a cave for him on the bank of the Ganga, and Haridas Thakur went and stayed there by himself. Because exactly what you're saying. Because he was afraid. He saw, oh, because of me, this person got this reaction. I don't want to cause any reaction to them. Now, other times someone may defend themselves out of good for them. Once Srila Prabhupada was speaking at the something Maidan, the Cross Maidan festival in Bombay, and afterwards one man came to see him, and he was very nasty, and he started speaking. Anything. And Prabhupada, the devotees were expecting Prabhupada was going to smash him and say that. And Prabhupada just hung his head and said, yes, I'm sorry, and didn't defend himself at all. Finally, the man went away, and the devotee said something, and Prabhupada said, well, I must have offended him in my past.
Yes, I have heard that past time. Yes.
So it requires some wisdom, and wisdom comes from Krishna in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like a fast formula that every time you have to tell the children why I'm wearing a red shirt, or every time you have to do this or that. We have to see in the situation. Sometimes, as you're pointing out, it may be better to humbly explain. And other times it may be better just like Srivas Thakur and say, yeah, look, everybody, see what I'm doing, and not try to defend ourselves.
I see. Thank you. So it's a matter of discernment and judgment.
Yeah, practicing bhakti requires some wisdom. And when we interact with different people, they're going to be different types of persons. And sometimes we may say, sometimes Prabhupada would get challenged in public, and he would challenge the person back. They say, how can you, are you self-realized? Do you know this or that? Because that was the right thing to do. And then I wanted him to speak. That's really the Bhakta Prabhava, the power of the devotee, is they're in touch with Krishna, and Krishna will speak through them. And what's said will be different in different times. Is that helpful, Jambavati?
Absolutely, Maharaj. Thank you so much. I also just wanted to share that Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Tirtha Maharaj, I know when I first was initiated, he had a suggestion for us, and that was that at least once a year, preferably on your birthday, to approach your, God brothers and God sisters with pen and paper in hand and ask them, Prabhu, what do you think are my strengths and what do you think are my weaknesses? And he wanted us, he said, to write them down so that later on, after our ego had settled down from, hearing something immediately, that we had a chance to actually reflect on what the person was sharing with us, about ourselves. And then he also said, even if it's not true, or you think it's not true, what the person has shared with you that may not be so palatable, think about perhaps what it is that you're doing or not doing that could cause that person to have that viewpoint. So it's a very humbling experience. I have not done it every year since then, but occasionally I will ask those that I know will tell me the truth. what my strengths or weaknesses are. And it takes, I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, but anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. I'm writing it down. It's something I got to practice. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj is someone I love very much, who helped me so much in my spiritual life. And today he's giving me an instruction through you. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your instruction to us and reminder to us.
Thank you, Madhajamba. Srimad Bharata Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the lecture. And my obeisances to all the devotees. Thank you very much on this, this lecture about tolerance and the Bhakta Prabhupada quality. However, I want to make some comments, and you probably enlighten us more. I think the ability to tolerate differs. A Brahmana can tolerate insult, but not a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya can tolerate physical assault, but not insult. This we have learned from the Shastra, according to nature. So, since we, in Krishna consciousness, we are very much understand the different nature according to Varna Ashram. When we describe the quality of a devotee as being tolerant, which is yes, in general, but at the same time, I think that generalization can be a bit confusing for neophytes, because devotees who are preachers may have to take on the spirit of Kshatriya, combatants for Krishna, and may not necessarily have to have the kind of tolerance of Jayadev Goswami. So I think you have to throw light on this, Prabhu. When I listened to your lecture, while I was listening, I feel you're describing an Uttama Adhikari. All these qualities of Jayadev Goswami and about tolerance, I think you're describing an Uttama Adhikari. But we are on different stages of bhakti. And not only that, we're on different stages of bhakti, but also even to preach. An Uttama Adhikari has to be sent to the second level, Madhyama Adhikari, where he has to manifest some qualities which may not be that level of tolerance you are describing. So this is my comment, Prabhu, if you can help us to understand better. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
I appreciate that. Your comment's really honest. I have a reading assignment for you. Okay, if you have a pen and paper there, please write this down. Bhagavatam 10:13-53. That's one of Srila Prabhupada's very last purports that he wrote in this world before he left. 13th chapter was Prabhupada's last chapter that he commented on. And this purport is Srila Prabhupada's final comments, final instructions about Varnashram Dharma. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how to establish Varnashram Dharma. And what may seem Kshatriyas or Vaishyas or Sudras or act according to our nature, he says the way to establish Varnashram Dharma is to have Mangal Arti, and to have Srimad Bhagavatam class, and to chant Hare Krishna. And naturally, by doing those things, the understanding of Varnashram will awaken in the devotees. Your comments are correct. What we were speaking about are the Sudha Bhaktas. But we want to hear about the Sudha Bhaktas. We want to hear about those pure devotees, those Mahabhagavats, even though we're not on that platform. Because by hearing about them, we can get some tolerance. because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed everyone, Chanadapi Sanichena Todoreva Sahisrana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniyat Sadahari. He doesn't say this is an instruction only for Brahmins, or only for Kshatriyas. It's an instruction for everyone, for all persons who want to practice bhakti, that they have to be as tolerant as a tree. And the more tolerant that we can become, the more that we'll be able to chant the holy name. The more that we're able to chant the holy name, the more tolerant we'll be able to be. So our movement is not actually meant to establish Varnashram Dharma. I'll say that very clearly. Our movement is meant to establish bhakti. But seeing that devotees weren't always on the platform, as you pointed out, of bhakti, practice Daivi Varnashram, or a kind of Varnashram which is all designed for bhakti. But the qualification within that, as Srila Prabhupada told devotees in one lecture in 1968 in Los Angeles, when Madhadvisa Prabhu asked Prabhupada after the lecture, he said, Prabhupada, I'm very confused about all this Varnashram talk. And should we be trying to cultivate Varnashram, or should we be chanting Hare Krishna? What should we do? And Srila Prabhupada answered in such a very simple, practical way. And he asked the devotees, he said, before you came to Krishna consciousness, were you practicing Varnashram? And the devotees were a little confused. He said, well, no. And Prabhupada said, it was not on the strength of Varnashram that brought you here. You came here on the strength of bhakti. And it's the strength of bhakti that will keep us going. But we practice Varnashram to help us to keep from falling down any further. But it's not that we should be trying to cultivate that I'm a Kshatriya, I'm a Vaishya, I'm a Sudra. We should be trying to cultivate that we're Vaishnavas. Some persons within our movement may want to cultivate those other things. They're welcome to do that. But that's not the spirit of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Haridas Thakur, we were giving the example of him. Haridas Thakur was not a Kshatriya, he was not a Vaishya, he was less than a Sudra by his birth. But he showed us how tolerant one should be. So we want to follow those examples because in our case, we're very, very fallen. We may act the role of a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or Sudra according to our nature and according to instructions of our guru. But we think that actually that's not what I want to be. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed us in a verse which Srila Prabhupada instructed all the devotees, the pujaris should recite every day as part of their ritual before they do puja. They should recite this verse to understand. It's called Bhuta Shuddhi, to purify myself, to understand what is my position. And that verse describes Naham Vipro Nachadanada Paiti Nepi Vaishyo Nasudo Naham Varni Nachagraha Patano Vanashtaryativa Kintu Prodya Nikila Paramananda Pranamitabdev Gopi Bhartahu Pada Kamali or Dasa Dasa and Dasa. We should sit down before we worship the Lord and we should think, Naham Vipro, I'm not a Brahmin. I'm not a Kshatriya. I'm not a Vaishya. I'm not a Sudra. I just want to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees. And that's my only strength. That's our strength. We want to be Vaishnav Kshatriyas or Vaishnav Vaishyas or Vaishnav Sudras, but we're Vaishnavas first. And therefore, being Vaishnavas or aspiring Vaishnavas, we want as best we can to take to this Trinadapi Sanichena verse. And therefore, we're speaking this. We could speak classes about, as you're mentioning, what is the strength of a Kshatriya, what is the strength of a Vaishya. And indeed, it would be beneficial for devotees and for persons who want to practice those type of behaviors. But it wouldn't necessarily be practical for all of us because we're not really qualified as Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. And we may spend our whole life trying to become qualified as Kshatriyas or Vaishyas and miss the boat. But what our real practice, our real goal is to get bhakti in this life. And we may practice being a manager, we may practice being a person making money, we may practice being a Sudra as a service to the Vaishnavas and service to Guru, but that's secondary. And we don't identify that with that any more than Haridas Thakur did. So I hope that's helpful. That's my humble response to your question. It's a little controversial. I understand some devotees would reply in a different way. I don't mean to quarrel, but that's the humble understanding I've gotten from my Guru Maharaj, and I've understood from Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas. I hope that's helpful for you, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I have a follow-up, and please, you have to tolerate me. Thank you for giving me that reading assignment. I will go and read it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting purport. Read it very carefully and very thoughtfully. He speaks about we have to establish Varnashram, and how can we do that? And then he starts going on so many things. Think about it.
Right.
I checked it up. It's quite a lengthy purport, so we cannot put it up here. So
yeah, you can't
we'll send it later.
I didn't try.
Yeah. Thank you.
So now my follow-up question, like I said, you should tolerate me because it looks like I'm going to. So I'm still trying to beat on the same thing, even though you've made your conclusion. But then some understandings I would also like to share with you, and with people who are also hearing us. I think one of the faults of communism is trying to, lump everyone together, and like a classless society where everybody is the same. So I don't think Vaishnavism means the same thing, where everyone has to conform into the same nature. We know that we have our transcendental spiritual nature, which is Krishna. I mean, we have to aspire to become Shuddha Bhaktas. But nonetheless, human beings have different nature. And the Bhagavad Gita, in many places, Krishna explains this. And also, even in chapter 16, when the saintly qualities are described, it is also according to categories. There are certain saintly qualities meant for sannyasis, meant for grihastha, etc., etc. Students, we cannot expect grihasthas to be swadhyaya, to be studious. They don't have time for that. So I'm just trying to say that we cannot lump everyone together into a uniformity of a class under the name of Vaishnavism. Of course, there's an ideal position that we are aspiring to, but we cannot, and the scripture does not say that we have to all conform into one classless society. That's my point. What's your reaction to this, Prabhu?
Well, diversity is our strength, not uniformity. I mentioned that before. Yeah, our strength is diversity. We have so many different understandings, but still Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave these verses for everyone. Now, if we want to practice bhakti, we should take advantage of this. Whether we're Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, nature, whatever it may be, we should practice Trinadapi Sunichena. We should practice tolerance. We should practice humility. How much we'll be able to do that will, as you're pointing out, differ with different persons. But still, the principle is the same for everyone. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta made it also clear that even for neophytes who are practicing bhakti, in the beginning, when they leave material life, some people will criticize them. And if we can't tolerate that, then you'll fall back down, again, to being a materialist. So there's a certain amount of tolerance that has to be there for anyone who wants to be a transcendentalist, regardless of what psychophysical nature they have, whether it be Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, etc. So, okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answers. If anyone has a further question or comment, please, you may do that. Prabhuji, I'm really happy to say that some of us were fortunate enough to have the association of His Holiness Guru Govinda Maharaj. When I remember when I was in Ghana, in Africa, I had the greatest opportunity to fanning him, and I loved fanning him. And Africa was hot, so he was feeling hot, and I was fanning him, and he would give long Srimad Bhagavatam classes. Devotees would try to find a way to leave, but you can't leave. If you attend, I remember he asked all of us, who has read the Bhagavatam? And one devotee raised his hand and says he's read the Bhagavatam from Canto 1 to Canto 12. He says, oh, okay, good. And the class started like maybe 7:30, 7:30 in the morning. And it went almost to 11:30 in the morning. And this devotee wanted to get up to leave the temple room. And Maharaj says, hey, I will not mention the name. He says, where are you going? He says, I do not live in the temple. I'm a businessman. I said, few minutes ago, you told all of us that you've read the Bhagavatam. How can you abandon Bhagavatam if you read Bhagavatam? So Maharaj was very heavy. But Prabhuji, are you speaking from India or are you in the States?
I am in Hungary right now.
Oh, you are in Hungary. Okay, Europe. Okay, so that means you are about, it's about 5 o'clock your time?
Yeah, same time as you.
Okay. No, I'm in the States now.
Oh, you are?
Yes. But we wouldn't want to keep you for too long because of the time difference. But I have a question about the behavior of Shrivas. Shrivas was falsely painted as Kali worshipper. And Shrivas himself knows for sure that he is not a Kali worshipper. He doesn't worship Kali. Now, why would he tell others that this is what I do? No, I always appear to be like a very advanced devotee. Now you come and see. I'm thinking that by such behavior, Srivas Thakur was actually, how should I put it? I think he was being sarcastic, if I may be allowed to use such a word for such a personality, because he knows for sure that he never does that. So ordinarily, one would have said, hey, I found all these things here. I don't know even how they came about. But he is admitting that he put them out there, knowing that he did not. So is he not lying? And what do we learn from such behavior as aspiring and neophyte devotees? Hare Krishna.
What was Srivas Thakur doing? He called for all the gentlemen of the community, and he said, just see what I'm doing every night. By his statement, he's giving pleasure to Gopal Chakravarti, Gopal Chappal, this person who's criticizing him. That was Srivas Thakur's desire. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. They want to give pleasure to someone else. They want to give happiness. And he doesn't care if he's criticized himself, because he knows Krishna's absolute. My connection with Krishna, who cares if I get criticized or not? I'm not attached to that. In fact, let me be criticized. That's better. His desire is to please Krishna and to please this other person. And what happened, interesting in that story, when all the gentlemen of the community saw that, they became very, very angry. And they immediately understood that there's no question Srivas Thakur didn't do this. They knew that. And they, who did this thing? And they called for someone immediately to come and clean that up. And it's interesting, Srivas Thakur didn't call for anyone to clean that up, but the men in the community did. Naranja Maharaj makes a comment on this story that I thought was very beautiful, that sometimes someone may criticize Srila Prabhupada. And so it's our duty as Prabhupada's followers to clean that up. Prabhupada may not be here, Prabhupada may tolerate that, but it's our job that we can't tolerate that thing, and we should come and we should clean up that mess. So he did like that. And Srivas Thakur, his behavior, is described that Vaishnava Chinite Nai Devara Shakati, that it's impossible for a materialistic person to understand the mind of a Vaishnava. We want to try, and therefore we're having this discussion today. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami is speaking this verse about Maharaj Parikshit, trying to help us understand what is the mind, the mood of a Vaishnava. But it's very, very difficult to understand. For ourselves, we would immediately think to defend ourselves. But Srivas Thakur, he doesn't care whatsoever to defend himself. His only desire, he feels, oh, this person wants to make me out as a bad person, so let him be victorious. He wants to win in an argument, fine. Let him win. He calls everybody, just see what they're doing to me. You know, once, I tell you, a crazy person wrote a very crazy letter to like over 100 people accusing me of killing my Guru Maharaj, which is a very horrible, I can't imagine anything worse to say. And I just forwarded their letter to a whole bunch more people is all that I did. I just thought of Srivas Thakur, and I just said, let people decide for themselves. And I'm not going to fight about this. I'm not going to defend myself. When that defending is one of the four principles, eating, meeting, sleeping, defending of material life. And when we can give up that attitude of defending ourselves, then we have some opportunity to make some advancement. That's my reflection anyway on that Sahadev Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And I love the answer, which kind of satisfies my question, but it also leads to the comment Srimad Bharata Prabhu made earlier, in the sense that I've forgotten the name of the Maharaj who said, gave some light to this pastime, that Srivas Thakur did not react to the false accusation. He called others, and all these respectable people, when they came, they cleaned up the mess. And therefore, we, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, will have to clean up the mess that may come after Srila Prabhupada. And so some, excuse my language, some crazy people, somewhere, sometime, may falsely criticize Srila Prabhupada. And what do we do as followers if we just sit down and we become Trinad Apich Sunichena? Then how are we going to clean the mess? And isn't it also a Shastric injunction that one should not listen to the blasphemy of a saintly person, what to speak of your guru? Like what you just said, because it pertains to you personally, you did not react, which is a Vaishnava quality. And the verse we treated actually talks about it, that one does not fight to protect himself, but a devotee becomes a warrior once he knows and sees that another devotee is being attacked. And so I guess this is where, like you were saying, the wisdom comes in as to when to react and when not to react. If you want to throw a little bit more light on this, Prabhuji.
Yeah, first of all, Shastra, in many places, it describes that if we see some sinful thing go on and we don't do anything, then we get a sinful reaction from that. Jahi Sakshi Nahi Dehi Tada Papaho, it said in Chaitanya Chaitamrita that if we know what's gone on something and we don't come forward and tell the truth, then we get a reaction for that. And there's many descriptions like that also in Shastra. So what is the difference here? In this verse we've been reading from today, we're reading about Maharaj Parikshit. And he tolerated criticism of himself. He tolerated even a curse of death on his own head. We can do that for ourselves, but as you're pointing out, if we tolerate someone being, a Vaishnava being criticized, or Krishna being criticized, then that's very, very terrible, and that'll destroy us. We can't do that. It's one of the types of bhakti to act upon that. There's another consideration too I'd like to share with you. I've done some research on this subject. I found a number of statements in Shastra. I'm going to just share two out of many. This is from the This is Vidura speaking to Dhritarashtra in the Mahabharata, Udyoga Parva. And he tells him, Akrosha parivada byam vihingsantya buddha buddhan vakta papamupadate kshamamana vimuchate, that sometimes there's some ignorant person who's a Buddha, who's ignorant, and he comes and he tries to criticize a wise person who's Buddha. But when the wise person, someone comes and criticizes him, if he tolerates that, then all of his vakta papamupadate kshamamana vimuchate, he becomes free from his sin, from his faults, and all those faults, they go to the critic. And then a little bit later, a couple of chapters later, it's also Vidura's conversation with Dhritarashtra. He's quoting Dattatreya. He says, Akrusha mana nakroshan manya eva ditikshitaha akrostadam nidahati sukritam cha shavindati. That if you're being criticized, don't criticize back. Don't fight back about it. Rather, you should be titikshita. You should tolerate that. And if you tolerate that, the pain that you feel in your heart, all the sukriti, all the pious things that the critic has will come to you. So if someone comes to criticize you and you just tolerate that and can forgive them, then and this is by the way a statement from a Kshatriya to another Kshatriya about Kshatriyas engaging in war. It's not directly a Vaishnava statement, although there's similar Vaishnava statements. If you tolerate that thing, anybody tolerates that, then you become free from your sin. It goes to the critic. And whatever good things the critic has, whatever punya he has, sukriti will come to you. His good things will come to you. Your bad things will go to him. So this is why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that actually the critic is our friend. So as you said, as you pointed out, we can't tolerate if someone criticizes Srila Prabhupada. And we, or another Vaishnava, or Gurudev, the Bhagavatam, or Krishna, we have to stop that. But how can we stop that? Once I asked my Guru Maharaj this question, I said that there's different things which are said, recommended, if someone criticizes a Vaishnava, that you should cut their tongue out, you should kill them. That's not very practical. We understand that, okay. Or you should go away, or you should defeat them. Yeah. I said generally the most popular way to deal with it is we want to defeat them. I said, but Guru Maharaj, how is it that sometimes you defeat someone? I mean, really, you've really defeated them, but they just don't accept defeat. You take a hammer and hit them on the head with a hammer, and then you tell them, there, I hit you on the head with a hammer. And they say, no, you didn't. Just, some kind of idiot like that. What can you do? And my Guru Maharaj then told me, he said, so I asked him, what does it mean to defeat them? And he said, to defeat them, it means that you speak in such a way they become mum, and they can't say anything further. Otherwise, it's better that you leave that place. So in the internet world today, there's a lot of times this is better to leave the place, honestly. Yeah. Even if it's criticism of Srila Prabhupada, right? If you can say something and convince them, you should do it. Yeah. By all means. But if you can't, then all you're going to do is you're going to get caught up in a horrible, horrible thing, which will be very bad for you to hear. Better we go away. There's a science about criticism. It's a whole long discussion. Yeah. A little something, Sadhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I truly, oh man.
Sadhu, hey, I have to thank you. I like your shirt, by the way. I think it's cool. Well, thank you for your sweater. Thank you for reminding my Guru Maharaj. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, no, it's my, how do I say it? It's just undeserved mercy that I received, He came to Ghana twice, actually. He came to Ghana twice. And one of your god brothers who actually followed him to Ghana, I came to USA and we became very good friends because he was married to one of my god sisters, So it is just, Srimad Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just a little contribution to your question about Srivas Prabhu, Srivas Thakur.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's one of those Vaishnava qualities that we have to emulate, like Prabhu was using that example. In relationship seminar, acceptance is considered to be a way of dealing with unreasonable situation. If you want to actually nullify an unreasonable situation or unreasonable whatever, acceptance is the best way to do that. And it is said that it actually leads to a higher experience. And what I'm happy about is that we see these qualities in Vaishnavas. Even though, mundane, what do you call, character development, etc., they develop this as part of the seminar. But you can see the example in exalted Vaishnavas like Srivas Thakur. They give us the best example of what materialists are using as standard of how to deal with a difficult relationship or unreasonable situation. So Srivas Thakur is one of the best example that exemplify, what acceptance should be when we're faced with unreasonable situation. So anyway, it's a very deep subject matter, but it's very interesting. If we learn that principle, how to accept unreasonable situation, you can. They say resistance leads to persistence. If Srivas Thakur had tried to resist that, then that offender would continue to say, "You did it, you did it, you did it." But because Srivas Thakur just said, "Yeah, this is what I'm doing," he just kept quiet. He couldn't say anything again. Like Prabhu said, it just made him happy. That's what he wanted. So it's a very good principle. It's a very good principle that we should learn.
Oh my goodness, this is a very difficult principle.
But persistence, they say that resistance leads to persistence. Resistance leads to, when you try to resist anything unreasonable, then it becomes more and more. So acceptance is the best way to cross it. So anyway, thank you, Prabhu. And that example of Srivas Thakur, we have to emulate it. Hare Krishna.
That's a great comment, Srimad Prabhu. Thank you so much. Your comment made me think of something else, how important it is. You were saying how important it is that we hear examples like Srivas Thakur. It reminded me of a statement from St. Francis of Assisi, one of my favorite quotes from him, that he once told his followers, "You should preach. And if necessary, you can use words." In other words, we need to preach by our example.
Yeah.
And if there's no example of someone like Srivas Thakur, we have so many words. Words are really cheap.
Yeah.
But who can really walk the talk? That's Srivas Thakur. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, this is why we meet every day here to learn the difficult art and try to live them, because it's easier to learn science, but learning art, I believe, is more difficult because it involves emotions, and some people have certain emotions by nature, just like the way Guru Govinda Maharaj preaches. I don't know if we can say it's a spiritual genetic transfer. You preach just like the way your Gurudev preach. And I listened to one of your online programs with Namaras, his podcast. I don't remember what number, but you were saying that you don't actually prefer to use the word preach, because that is not what we're supposed to be doing. And I learned from that, which I very much appreciate. So I'm used to saying preaching, but I'm learning how to rephrase my word. Mitravinda Devi, please unmute. I'm getting excited. I have to check myself so I don't talk too much.
I like it. It's okay, Sadhu.
Mitravinda, please.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Can you turn on your video? Is it possible? If it's not possible, forget about it.
It's not possible at this moment.
Okay,
I
yes.
apologize.
Go ahead, please.
What I have, it's actually a question I'd like further elaboration for understanding on tolerating. So my question regards how then, if we're supposed to be tolerating, and everyone is supposed to be tolerating, can there be the tolerating of women and children being abused, which is against Shastra, along with the three others? My understanding is that a woman or a jiva in a female body should not tolerate abuse of herself or children. And it should be spoken of, not tolerated at all. There are instances of, and this is also like it's some kind of training in marriage in certain cultures. I don't believe it's a spiritual tenet to not speak of things that actually shouldn't be done in a marriage, etc. If it relates to abuse, which benefits the abuser ultimately. There are instances of gurus apologizing about knowing of abuse in this way and apologizing for it. We are not our bodies, yet it is stated in Shastra. Please speak on this, that women, children, brahmanas, elderly, cows are not to be abused. Yet this aspect of tolerating is spoken of in a way that it's kind of a blanket instead of being specific. Would you please elaborate, Prabhu? Thank you.
Yeah,
Hare
it's
Krishna.
it's a really, really important subject. And there's always going to be a kind of tension in our society because our society, as Prabhupada said in the purport we were reading from Path of Perfection, chapter 3, Prabhupada said that we hate the sin and not the sinner. And that's always our movement. Our movement is always about mercy and kindness and forgiveness. And there were so many devotees who did so many terrible things during Srila Prabhupada's time, who Prabhupada forgave them and brought them back. So that's always going to be instilled in us. But then at the same time, as you're pointing out, as a society, we have to protect women, we have to protect children. And women and children by nature, more so than men, they need to be protected. And it's easy for them to be exploited. So how do we deal with this? I would say it's a controversial subject. It's something which I think as a society we're going to have to learn. There's a lot of discussion right now going on about child abuse in our society. I look at that as something which is helping us to grow as a society and to become more aware of it. It's an important thing. My personal feeling about this, which I would strongly suggest, and I would give Shastric Pramanas to support this, is that if someone has done such heinous things as child molestation, then they should just go to prison. And there's no question about the devotees dealing with it because the devotees don't know how to deal with that kind of thing. Devotees know Bhagavad Gita. Devotees know how to be forgiving. Devotees know how to be kind. They're not trained in how to deal with legalities like this with very heavy things. Better that person, in my humble opinion, is arrested by the police. The devotees should just cooperate with the police because the police know how to deal with that. And let that person go to prison. Haridas Thakur went to prison. And Haridas Thakur preached in prison. And if someone's really a Vaishnava and they really feel bad, they'll go to prison. And if they go to prison for child molestation, we know what happens to prisoners who do that in prison. They're going to be beaten and abused themselves. But that's going to purify them. And from that purity, and then if they really want to preach, if they're really sincere, I'll bring them books in prison. I've done that before with devotees who've gone to prison. I brought them books. I brought them prasadam because I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. I'm not a Yamaduta. My business is not to judge everybody. My business is to give mercy. But because I'm not qualified to deal with the legal things of that, and I'm not able to help that person overcome the very serious offenses that he committed to children in that, it's better they just go to prison. And then as a devotee, I can bring them prasadam, I can feel compassion on them. And based on their behavior in prison, if they want to distribute books and preach and things, I think devotees will be forgiving of them. That's my humble thought about that. There can't be any question of tolerating abuse of children or ladies in our society, in any progressive society, and what to speak of in a Vaishnava society. In our Vaishnava society, our movement is a movement of women. Krishna himself has come to taste the mood of Srimati Radharani. And our preaching, we don't like that word, as Sahadev Prabhu was pointing out, our sharing Krishna consciousness really is done in the mood of a mother sharing with children. And I could give you different examples of that from Chaitanya Charitamrita and other places. Our movement really is a feminist movement in that sense. So but we have to protect the women. We have to, it's so important in our society. If we don't protect that feminine mood, then our movement will be destroyed. On the other hand, if as devotees, we allow ourselves to just focus on all the evil things that have gone on and all the bad things, and we appoint ourselves as the judge of everyone else and want to inform everybody about all the bad things they've done, then what'll happen is we're going to take on some of their karma also. It's better if we just wash our hands of it and just turn them over to the police, let the police deal with it when we can. And I understand it's not always so simple, because sometimes the woman is abused. She's not a minor. Maybe there was no legal thing gone wrong or something, so the police can't deal with that. And as a society, we need to. I agree with that. But my point is, there's always going to be some difference. There's going to be some problem. Because on one hand, we're trained to be merciful. We're trained to be followers of Nityananda Prabhu, who forgave two of the greatest child molesters in history, which are Jagai and Madhai. And it's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, they molested so many underage girls and persons. And Nityananda Prabhu forgave them and purified them. He's our hero. That's what we're always hearing about. And then on the other hand, we have this thing going, the best way to deal with it, I think, is just we can't. We just turn it over to the police, let the secular authorities deal with it. And as far as other persons in our movement goes, sannyasis, how can we say that someone shouldn't be friends with someone else? This is where our Prabhupada, many times he said that we're at war with Maya. And in this war, many of the soldiers will be destroyed and they'll be killed. And Prabhupada wanted the devotees, he trained the devotees to tolerate, cooperate, and work with their God brothers. And so they overlooked so many things. But they did that for Srila Prabhupada. I don't think it's necessarily a fault on their behalf. But now they're seeing, and now there's a hue and cry amongst many devotees. And we're looking at the leaders, and the leaders are realizing, I have to be more responsible. And if I see things going on, I have to stop that. It's a natural progression in society. I'm not surprised by it. If you study history or sociology of religions, new religions always have a lot of child abuse. Historically, it's always gone on, because the new religion, they want to have schools and they don't have a system to understand who's a proper teacher and who's not. If you study child abuse, just Google. We criticize the Catholic Church, but do you know that if you have a child in public school, the odds of them being abused sexually is 100 times greater than if they're in the Catholic Church. The public school is 100 times worse, but we don't hear about that so much. And we hear more about it in the Catholic Church. We hear more about it in the Hare Krishna movement, because we shouldn't do that. We're not meant to be like the non-devotees. We should be a haven, a place where people can get sheltered. So it's a very, very heavy discussion. There's a few reflections of myself on that. I hope that's helpful.
Oh, Prabhuji. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, of course, this is recorded, and I believe that devotees will go back and watch this recording and learn so much from it. Prabhuji, before we go to Harichakra Prabhu, I have one quick suggestion, very, very humble suggestion. I'm suggesting that, if possible, maybe you can suggest to His Grace Chaitanya Charan. I know you do lots of programs with him, so that you help the wider Vaishnav, or say devotee community, to better understand the difference between offense, sin, crime, and what have you. Because sometimes somebody may commit a crime and the devotee may think it's just an offense. And as devotees, we're trying to be tolerant, and so we tolerate. But it might not be an offense, it may be a crime. And like you rightly said, if it's a crime, the person has to go to jail and learn from that. So if possible, if you can arrange that, I believe it will help the wider devotee community. So Harichakra Prabhu, please, you may unmute. And after Harichakra Prabhu, there is one comment in the chat room. We'll read that and then we'll see if Prabhu.
Sadhu Prabhu, just let me just give a quick reflection on that too. There's a quote recently I came across by a sociologist, named Wendy Jade, and they said that an environment that is not safe to disagree in is not an environment focused on growth. It's an environment focused on control. Now, that's been said about our movement sometimes, that we can't disagree and that's a weakness, and it's a fact. But sometimes I've also seen in the wide internet discussions that are going on, and you can't disagree.
Yeah.
Sometimes about certain things, and they just want it's an environment focused on control.
Yeah.
For people, and it's not healthy.
Hey,
there's a lot
how can
of
I help you?
amongst different devotees, and we should hear from them and not make an atmosphere.
How much?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay. Harichakra Prabhu, are you ready? I heard you talking to somebody else. If you're ready, you may unmute.
And you could show us your smiling face too, it'd be good.
Yeah, if you can show your face. Otherwise, Prabhuji, we may take something said by Her Grace Leela Devi. I think it's very interesting. It says, I'm actually thinking about the difference between tolerance in the sense that we may feel hurt within or offended by someone, yet we consciously don't react on it and tolerate, compared to being so absorbed in transcendence that we can't really even be hurt because we are just completely aloof or beyond that level of existence. And if the first one I mentioned can be perceived as a practice to achieve the second one. In other words, I hope you get what she's saying and asking at the same time.
Yeah, very thoughtful. Thank you very much, Leela. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sundarbha, he says there's two types of bhakti, the sakaitiva and akaitiva bhakti, or bhakti with cheating and bhakti without cheating. So one example of bhakti with cheating is to come and just say, oh, Prabhu, it's okay. You can say whatever bad things about me you want to say, Prabhu, because I'm so advanced and I just tolerate everything. But that's cheating because I'm not really like that. But on the other hand, I do have to cultivate tolerance. So I do that maybe in a little bit of a mechanical kind of way, a little bit even in a physical kind of way by bowing down. But I can be honest also, and I should be honest and raise my hand and say, wait a minute, you said that about me and that's not true. That's just wrong. And then maybe I'll learn that then all of a sudden a big argument comes up and I end up having a week-long time on Facebook arguing about something with somebody. And maybe through that I realize actually it would have just been better just to tolerate it. And I get some deep realization from that. But we can't, when we say that we should tolerate, that tolerance is not something that should be artificial. Because that's also not helpful in bhakti. We should be honest. We should intellectually know, and that's why we're speaking all these things, so we can intellectually know that I should be as tolerant as Srivas Thakur. But if somebody comes and puts some meat and some wine and stuff on my doorstep, it doesn't mean that I have to do the same thing that Srivas Thakur is doing. That may be very artificial. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Oh, I love this. Prabhuji. I love this in particular in the sense that you're giving us wisdom from all corners of the universe, you know. I mean, you made reference to what some devotees will consider to be a kami as a sociologist. Why are you referencing a sociologist? But Krishna is in the heart of each and everyone. And Krishna can speak to us through anyone, provided we make good use of what is being said. So thank you for sharing this wisdom with us.
Thank you. Let me make one last comment.
Okay, please.
I just turned 62 this year, and in my life, I've seen a lot of revolutions. I hitchhiked to Washington, D.C. when I was 17 years old for a protest, and we got tear gas, and the police beat the hell out of everybody. And the newspaper said it was a peaceful gathering. But I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of movements in my life, and I've never seen any movement that's based on anger or hatred really be successful.
Mm.
What's successful is bhakti. When we care about other persons, and when we try to understand them, and we promote the principles of Chanadapi Sunichina and Kirtaniya Sadahari, that's what's successful, not just rage and hatred for everybody.
Thank you so much. Hey, Lila Prabhu, thank you for your question, comment in the chat room. But like other devotees, you tricked me, unknowingly though, because we have one Lila on this platform, and the lady, so I thought she was the one speaking.
Yeah, when you said, I thought it was a lady too, but maybe this Leela, sometimes he dresses up as a ghost. I don't know, maybe that's why you felt inspired like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We know this Leela, he's a friend of ours.
I'm sorry for that. It wasn't.
No, Robert, you know, we love it. We are appreciating it. We are enjoying it. Hare Krishna, Chakra Prabhu, please unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for all these elaborate explanations that you've been giving us. This is pure nectar to hear. I'm still on the issue of tolerance. Sometimes, even among devotees, like on devotee platforms like this, because on a couple of occasions, I have been kicked out of some platforms because someone may say something, and I thought, no, this we can't just let it go. We have to respond to that. So sometimes, like during the time of COVID, some devotee will quote scripture to like minimize the truthfulness of the disease and all that stuff. And if you read the scripture that he's quoting, it's completely like misquoted, completely misquoted. And I was personally, I was thinking, why should we keep quiet for this thing to go on? So there needs to be a response, and you go there and you respond by also counter-quoting some scripture to let him know that no, of course, when it comes to material things, let's deal with it that way. And when it comes to spiritual things, we deal with it that way. And they'll kick you out of the forum because they say, oh, we don't want devotees to be arguing. So when issues of that nature happens, Prabhu, my question is, how do we deal with it? Because it looks as if a lot of the devotee forums, when issues of that nature come, they keep telling you, oh, no, devotees, we don't have to be fighting among each other. But this is not fighting. This is trying to prove a case.
Yeah.
And as long as I personally think that we should be given the opportunity to express what we think are our realizations, so that people, there may be people on the forum who might not be bold enough to come out to challenge something. So if you come out to do that, I'm personally thinking that it might be helping some other devotees somewhere. So what do you advise on issues of that nature among devotees?
Well, sometimes I think we're overly generous in our expectations of devotees. Sometimes we think that they're going to be more saintly than they actually are. Sometimes we expect the devotees, sanghas, to be more Krishna conscious than they actually are, and we're sometimes sadly disappointed by it. We have to follow Shastra ourselves. And in line with this discussion we're having today about Parikshit Maharaj and what is a Bhakta Prabhava, the strength of a devotee, one of the points we could make would be from the Padma Purana, which describes that Ashradadani Vimukhe Prashinvati is Chokpadesha Shiva Nama Paradha. The ninth offense of the holy name is to speak to people who have certain qualities. They're Ashradadhan, they don't have faith in you. Vimukh, they're just not interested in what you have to say. Vimukh means they're turned away. Or Prashinvati, they're not interested in what you have to say. So for those people, we just don't speak with them. So we have to learn the art of speaking certain things to certain people. Like with small children, you can go to them and tell them, you know, that don't you dare play with matches, you idiot, you're going to burn the house down, you're going to do this and that. But it may not help. It may be better just to say something loving and just say, look, there's a rule, no playing with matches. That's all. And you don't get into the explanation because they're not ready to hear it. So Krishna says this in the Gita. He says that in the 18th chapter, he says, Tadidam, Idam te narapaskaya. He says, he spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita, which is the #1 world record selling book throughout history. Then he said, Idam te narapaskaya, don't speak this to someone who's not a Idam te narapaskaya nabhakta, who's not a devotee, Kadachan and Shushushave, who's not ready to do service, or Prashinvati, who's envious. Don't speak it to them. And so I know it's a difficult thing sometimes. I like to quote Shastra. We want to help someone. We see someone is on top of a roof flying a kite, and they're walking to the edge of the roof backwards with the kite, and they're going to fall over. And you start yelling at them, hey man, you're going to fall off the roof. And the person gets angry with you. And who the hell do you think you are? And you, hey man, look, you're going to fall off. And they finally pick up a bottle and throw it at you. So they, okay, fine. You know, you can fall off the roof. That's your problem, not mine. Really what we need, I think that the solution is we need to find good, like-minded sanghas. Yeah. And I can say this, my Guru Maharaj told me, he gave me 2 instructions. He told me to write books, write things, and he told me to give classes. And I'm a very small, insignificant person, but somehow I've been in Australia, I've been in China and Japan, I've been all through Europe and South America and many different places giving classes over the years. And I've learned one thing, that not everybody wants me. and I can deal with that. Why not? Why should they? Sometimes people just don't want you to come. And that's your good intelligence. I think, fine. I don't argue with them. Rather, I save myself for people who do want to hear from me. I save myself for someone who has some faith in me. Because if someone's a Shraddhadan who don't have faith in what I'm saying, I can't speak it. And all that it does, if I break that Shastric principle, Shruti Smriti Purana, not Pancharata Vidin Vina, then if I break this principle of Padma Purana, and I speak to people who don't have faith in me, Akaintaka Hare Bhakti Yetta type, what's going to happen is it's going to create a disturbance. And I'll get kicked off the forum. It'll create a disturbance. So we have to have some wisdom sometimes. And I understand it's not so palatable. Can you imagine how Srila Prabhupada must have felt, seeing the things that he could see in the devotees and the mistakes that we were making? But Prabhupada was so quiet sometimes, because sometimes with a child or a new person, you just have to let them learn by making their own mistake. There's nothing else you can do. And that's wisdom. And then when they see that you're not trying to control them or change them, then they'll listen to you. That's my personal experience. Because the problem is we may have a lot of good things to say to people, but if they don't have faith in us, then there's really nothing we can do.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. We are happy to say that this platform is 101% happy to have your association 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 12 months in a year. So,
even as my wife, you would get tired of me.
Prabhuji, we love it. That will be a sweet tiredness. So, Prabhuji, in fact, on this point, we're humbly pleading with you that next time when we throw you an invitation, please do accept our invitation and be with us.
Well, do you know, Sahadeva Prabhu, let me just speak in a really blunt, very, very straightforward way.
Okay, please.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Leela Purushottam Prabhu is my friend. There's a couple persons here that I know. You're being very friendly and nice with me in spite of my bad jokes and things.
Oh, Prabhu, no, don't send me to Talatala. You are more merciful than that.
But the blunt fact of the matter is, I don't know most of you.
Yeah.
And it would be unreasonable, it'd be foolish for me to expect you to have a lot of faith in me. So I have to build that faith. So I build that faith by doing what my guru told me to do, quote Shastra, quote authorities, get something logical, and that gives some faith. But at the same time, we all know that there's a difference when you're speaking, when you're invited to a Rotary Club to give a lecture, and you go there and they like you and they appreciate you, and you can say something to them. But what you say to a group of very intimate friends, 4 or 5 friends in your home, will be much, much deeper than what you can say to that Rotary Club.
Yes.
So there's a limit to what we can do in a program like this also. And I love you, Sahadeva Prabhu, you being so affectionate to me and so nice. And I appreciate Hari Chakra Prabhu and others. You've all welcomed me in a very loving way. It feels genuine.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji.
But it takes time to really build relationships. And you can't speak the same thing to someone the first time you meet them as you do later on. Could I just go take a moment and address Mitra Vinda? She's asked me a couple of questions here. And
Yes, please do.
She asks if I'm still giving my class on Facebook. We have a class we were doing called Meeting in Kurukshetra. We were up to over 100 sessions in that. And I stopped for different reasons because we were traveling and also I had some health issues. I just had an operation a week ago. I'm getting back, my health's coming back, and I'm looking forward to start doing that again. I'm going to try. I'm not going to promise, but I'll try. So you can look for that on Facebook. And she also comments that she had some similar experiences with devotees overlooking her raised hand in Zoom or something, just because they didn't want to hear a question. That's sad.
Yeah.
Maybe that means that we're not in the right sangha. Sometimes, to be really honest, it may be somewhat healthy for us, but we want to be in a sangha where we're appreciated and people can hear from us. And Mitra Vinda has again commented, perhaps along with practicing bhakti, everyone should do more self-help and evaluation of actions, deeds, and mindset in order to reflect practicing bhakti and honor Srila Prabhupada's service of ISKCON in a better light to each in the world. What a beautiful comment. Thank you. I really liked your comment. And there was another comment earlier by Jambavati, I think it was.
Yeah, Jambavati.
Wow, I really, that's for me, that's the treasure I'm walking away with today, that I should approach my friends and ask them to make a list of all my good qualities and my bad qualities. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that, Jambavati. I'm going to have to try to work up some bravery for that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So please consider this platform to be like the 5 intimate friends as opposed to so this is Maharaj is behind you with hands raised. So Maharaj says Hare Krishna to what he suggested. Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, I believe you all admit that Prabhuji has been so merciful, so kind to us for spending so much time with us. He actually was like the first person to get online when this meeting was turned on. So he's been here for approximately 2 hours, 22 minutes, which is a very nice number. I like numbers. So I guess we may allow him to take a leave, and we hope and pray that we can have his association next time, and that next time is very soon. Except someone has something else to say. Srimad Prabhu, Salika Prabhu, you have something to end on? before Prabhu leaves? I see Jagannathani Prabhu, you have some words of wisdom to share with us. Appreciating what we've been through for the 2 hours and so minutes.
Hare Krishna, just want to say thank you so much to Prabhu for this beautiful class. You know, I'm not too surprised though, because it is said that you know the fruits by the tree that bears it. His Holiness Govinda Maharaj was a very loving, caring father that we miss this association. So seeing Prabhu here, I'm not surprised at all. I'm so overwhelmed with happiness that he comes and I only follow in this footstep of Sade Prabhu to Prabhu, please kindly honor our call, because we'll be calling you very soon, earlier than you might be thinking about. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. That is Salika Prabhu, my god brother. So, well, at this point, I think we're going to do our routine ritual, and that is we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then Vaishnava Pranam, and then we bring the class to a close. So please, you may all kindly unmute, and together we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as loud as our voices may allow us. Jai Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram.
Santa Koti Vaishnava.
Hare Krishna.
It's great.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Jai